Well, hello and welcome to Discovery Online. This is a very special online worship experience as we wrap up and celebrate 2021. And don't forget that one reason we historically do not have in-person worship gatherings the last Sunday of the year is really to create space where we can get out into the community and serve. Because serving is another way that we worship God. We become the tangible hands and feet of Jesus. So this week, on December 28th, 29th, and 30th, we have time slots reserved where you can sign up and serve at the World Vision Distribution Warehouse. And Janie and the boys and I, we've already signed up for our time, and I hope you will too. And who knows, maybe we'll even be serving together. If time slots are already full, don't worry. There are other opportunities next year, but we do encourage you to find some way that you can serve someone this week. And I hope if you have a family with children and teens that you are all gathered together for this worship experience, because that's the way that we've designed it, with everybody in mind. So if your kids aren't with you right now, if they're maybe hanging in their room or whatever, hiding out, we want to give you a moment to call them. You can tell them Pastor Matt said he wants to hang out with them, because I do. Seriously, go ahead and call them. And as you do that, I just want to remind everyone that there are only 5 days left of the year. So don't miss out on the opportunity to be generous with your year-end giving. If you give by check, don't forget to make sure all checks are postmarked by December 31st and that they're mailed to Discovery Christian Church, 170 Sharberry Lane, Mars, PA, 16046. We'll put that on the screen there too. And obviously another safe and secure way to give is through online giving. And you can do that right now or in the next few days through our church app or through our website. Just be sure to do so before the end of the year so you can really maximize your tax-deductible gifts. And at the beginning of 2022, just like we always do, we will be sure to send you your giving records as you enter the most wonderful time of the year, tax season. Said no one ever. And for those of you honoring your relentless commitments, well done. It's time to move from a season, though, of relentless generosity to now a lifestyle. And I'm very excited about what's to come in 2022. Now, hopefully, if you have your kids with you, they are now hanging out. What's up, everybody? We're so glad. It's an honor to get to be here with you today. I have a special story just for you because I love this book. It's called the Jesus Storybook Bible, and my family and I, we have read it cover to cover probably a dozen times. You know, parents, if you don't have this book yet, it is a must read, not just for your kids, but for you as well. So maybe in 2022, as you put your kids to bed each night, maybe you read one story throughout this, a great way to develop this healthy rhythm in your family. But I want to take this time to read one story all the way in the back called A New Way to See. It's about a young man by the name of Paul. Would you just read this together? It says, "Of all the people who kept the rules, Saul was the best. I'm good at being good, he'd tell you. He was very proud and very good, but he wasn't very nice. Saul hated anyone who loved Jesus. He traveled around looking for them. He wanted to catch them and put them in prison. He wanted everyone to forget all about Jesus. He didn't believe Jesus was the rescuer, and he didn't believe Jesus was alive either. You see, Saul had never met Jesus. So one day, Jesus met Saul. Saul was on his way to Damascus when suddenly a dazzling light flashed like lightning. It was brighter than the sun. It was too bright. Saul shielded his eyes and fell to the ground. He heard a loud voice. It was too loud. It gave Saul a headache. "Saul, Saul," said the loud voice. "Why are you fighting me?" "Lord," Saul answered, "who are you?" "I am Jesus," said the voice. "When you hurt my friends, you're hurting me too." Saul's whole body trembled. "Go to the city," Jesus said. "I'll tell you what to do." When Saul opened his eyes, he couldn't see. His helpers had to hold his hand and lead him like a little child. Saul was blind for 3 whole days, and yet it was as if he was seeing for the very first time. Meanwhile, there was a man called Ananias who loved Jesus. And Jesus came to him in a dream. "Go to Saul and pray for him, and I will make him see again." Ananias knew all about Saul and how he hated Jesus' followers. "Lord, he has come to hurt us." But Jesus told Ananias, "Saul is the one I have chosen to tell the whole world who I am." So Ananias went to Saul. "Brother Saul," Ananias said, "it was Jesus who you met on the road." And Ananias prayed for Saul. And suddenly Saul could see again, but he saw everything differently. He wasn't mean anymore. He even changed his name from Saul to Paul, which means small and humble, the very opposite of proud. And do you know what Ananias' name means? The Lord is full of grace. And grace is just another word for gift, which is funny because that's what Paul's message was all about from then on. It's not about keeping the rules, Paul told people. You don't have to be good at being good for God to love you. You just have to believe what Jesus has done and follow him. Because it's not about trying, it's about trusting. It's not about rules, it's about grace, God's free gift that cost him everything. What had happened to Paul? He met Jesus. Paul got a new job. He called himself a servant and traveled everywhere telling everyone about Jesus. He got shipwrecked 3 times. He even ended up in prison. God loves us, he wrote from prison. Nothing can ever, no, not ever, separate us from the never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love of God he showed us in Jesus. And so it was. Just as God promised Abraham that dark night, all those years before, the family of God's children grew and grew until one day they would come to number more than even all the stars in the sky. I love how it says, you don't have to be good at being good for God to love you. You just have to believe what Jesus has done and follow him, because it's not about trying, it's about trusting. It's not about rules, it's about grace, God's free gift that cost him everything. That's really the big idea of today, and really the big idea for your life. I hope you will remember that as the year 2021 ends, and that you'll carry it with you into 2022. And before we head into a new year, we just want to take a moment and look back at all that God has done in us and through us. So we created a special year in review page on our website that I would highly encourage you to go check out, browse through it, because there's really a ton to celebrate as we saw God change a lot of lives. I mean, this was the year that we entered into our new church home. We were able to host a night to remember for the very first time in our home. We hosted an incredible women's summit. We sponsored over 100 children in Rwanda through World Vision. We saw almost 20 people take the step of baptism. Well, also on this page, you're going to see 5 messages. Of the 52 messages that we teach every Sunday throughout the year, we selected 5 of them that we highly recommend that you go back and check out. Maybe you missed them the first time around. But this week, while you're running through North Park or on the treadmill or traveling to see family on holiday, that you would maybe load up the Discovery podcast and listen to one of these 5 messages. Well, for today's teaching time, I actually selected an 8-minute clip from a message called Churchianity versus Christianity. It's from our summer series called A Cruise Through Colossians, which was written by the Apostle Paul, the same guy we just heard about in our children's story. And I heard from lots of people after that specific message that God really spoke to them and really helped them break through the lies that they had to be better and try harder to earn God's love. And I wanted to make sure today you heard this incredible news. Now, before we ask the question, what is God saying to us through the letter of Colossians? We need to ask the question, what is God saying to them? The context is key here. And so we're going to look back to what life was like in the 63 AD. If you're living in the city of Colossae, every street corner doesn't have a Starbucks, doesn't have a CVS. Instead, what you'd find is a temple to the Greco-Roman gods and goddesses. We're talking like Zeus and Aphrodite and the whole cast of characters of the Greek and Roman mythology, right? And so what you have is this very superstitious culture where you could never have a relationship
with the gods. You can only really make them mad. So the culture of religion that people had in that day, all they knew was kind of trying to appease the gods, to appease the goddesses, because they were capricious, they were temperamental, and they would come down off of that mountain and they would blast us if we didn't keep things straight. And so I need to do this and I need to do that in order to keep them happy, keep them at bay. And so you have that going on in Colossae, but you also have this culture of philosophy. Philosophy was big business there in the ancient world. You'd have this guy walk into the public square and say, I have found out, discover the meaning of life. And so students would gather around and they would start taking notes and they would start getting all of this knowledge. The problem with all this stuff is that it doesn't change this stuff. And you can't have the meaning of life without the creator of life. So all of a sudden you tell a first century Colossian, there's more. There is this capital G God who is crazy about you. He's not crazy, and you got to make sure you keep him happy. He's not this God or goddess who's going to come down off of that mountain and come down and smite you because of what you've done. This God, he left heaven and came to earth in the form of this man named Jesus, and he lived a perfect life, and he went to a cross to take your punishment and take your sin, and he died for it so you can find your way back to God who wants you to spend eternity with him because he's crazy about you. All of a sudden, the people of Colossae are going, I want that. That's way better than what I've got. Tell me more. There's better news that I want to know more about him. Did you know that the fastest growing group in our culture today is the nuns? Okay, not N-U-N-S, Catholic, like nuns. I don't think that group is growing very fast at all right now. But the nuns, N-O-N-E-S. You've ever taken a census before? And it asks you like what religious group you're affiliated with. And you might go, hey, Christian or Catholic or Hindu or Muslim or other. The fastest growing group is checking the box that says none. And listen, first of all, man, if you're one of those people right now who says none, I'm so glad that you're here because that means you are investigating. You are checking things out. You're like, I want to know who this Jesus is because I'm not so smart to know that if I find something even better, that I can uncheck that box and I can go to Jesus. These people who are atheist, agnostic, they don't believe in anything. They believe that our universe came from some sort of cosmic collision of matter and that by some random chance, some kind of accident, that just something happened out there. We don't really quite know how to explain it, but boom, and now years and years and years and years later down, here we are. That we came from nothing, that we will go to nothing. So everything in between is just one big nothing. At the source of life, whatever it is indifferent at best. You can't have a relationship with it, that there's nothing beyond us, that there's no hope in this life, and so it's just empty. And when you share the good news of Jesus with a nun, and you share the evidence of creation, and you share the evidence of the cross, and that he is real and personal, and that he loves you, then some of them get excited, and they go, I want to know more about that. Now, I'm still skeptical, but it's going to put me on a journey, and I'm intrigued, and I want to explore more about this good news, because listen, I'm a nun, and I've got nothing, and now you're telling me that there's something. Paul says in verse 6, he says, the gospel, it's bearing fruit. It is growing throughout the whole world, just as it has been doing among you in Colossae, since the day you heard it and truly understood God's grace. Paul shines a spotlight on this word right here. This is a game changer. This is what the heart of the good news is, this grace thing. Because all we've ever heard growing up, maybe a lot of churches that you've been a part of before, is this: be good, be good, be good, be good, and then God will love you. right? And you got to do this, and you've got to keep these rules. You got to be this kind of a good person. These are the list of the things that you can't do. You can't drink. You can't listen to rock and roll. You can't do this and all these things, because Jesus would never be a part of that kind of stuff. And here's the things that you can do. You got to drive slow. You got to buckle your seatbelt. You got to do all these things. You got to stop cussing, obey the golden rule. And a lot of people, when they think about Christianity, that's what comes to their mind, that list. The problem is, they've confused Christianity with Churchianity. There's a massive difference. Churchianity is where the people get together who've got it all figured out. Everyone needs to become just like us and behave like us, and you get to go to heaven. And there's a lot of rules in Churchianity. There's a lot of hypocrisy in Churchianity, and some of you have experienced Churchianity because it's everywhere in our culture. In Churchianity, there's all these kind of rules that you got to follow, and you got to dress like this when you come to church. You got to read this kind of translation of the Bible, and they'll go, this is the King James Version of the Bible. This is what Jesus and the apostles read. And you're like, whoa. The King James Version was written in the 1600s A.D. Well, I know that's just what Jesus, this is how Jesus read and what they, wait, you can't argue with crazy, all right? It's not that. And you can't dance in Churchianity, and you can't play cards in Churchianity, because you know that's what the devil's doing. This is what the devil's doing right now. He's like, hey, come to the dance floor. You, me, come on, bring it on in. Let's get it going there. And you know what else he's doing? He's doing this. He's shuffling up. He's dealing you in. Come on, you in? You want to play? Hit. Yeah, you fold. Yeah, come in. Can't do those things. Can't dance. You can't play cards. And somehow in Churchianity, they forget the whole love your neighbor as yourself part. And they forget the whole care for the least of these part. And they'd rather throw a sign in your face and say you're going to hell rather than help you get out of the pit that you're in. And it's everywhere in our culture, and some of you have been affected by it, and you've grown up in it, and this fake brand of the real thing has kind of turned you off. But Christianity is way different. It's a breath of fresh air when all you've had is Churchianity, because Christianity is all about Jesus. It's all about the good news of Jesus. It's all about it's all about grace. It's all about this free gift. And can I give you this big idea for the day? Like, if you don't remember anything else that I've said today, don't remember my dancing. Remember this, please. Churchianity is about what you do to try and make God like you. And Christianity is about what he has done for you, because he already does.
Promises you
Churchianity is all about what you do to try and make God like you. But Christianity is about what he has done for you because he already does. You know, next Sunday, we're kicking off a brand new series called Firsts. With a brand new year comes the same old desires to try and improve our lives. And we want to eat better. We want to look better. We want to do this. We want to do that. And we end up trying to cram all these things into an already overpacked schedule. Well, our first 5 Sundays at Discovery are dedicated to the 5 most important rhythms that if we get these and keep them as our first priorities, then everything else flows and fits much more naturally. So check this out, and I can't wait to see you next Sunday, January 2nd, 2022, in person or online as we start our new series, Firsts.